Yesterday, a video went viral that was one of the worst cases of police brutality to come out of the UK in quite some time. It may not be up there in terms of all-time worst, but it's definitely up there in recent years. Now, of course, British police brutality is different from what might happen in other countries like the USA, but it does happen. Now, this video was published on Twitter and picked up by an anti-lockdown account, and from there it quickly went viral. The fact it was spread by an anti-lockdown account is relevant, for it was about lockdown restrictions that have been in place for months now the man was being brutalised for. The video takes place in what appears to be some kind of tram or train. Public transport nonetheless. It's definitely not shown the beginning of their confrontation, as it appears they were already conversing when the camera is filming. So let's go through it, shall we?
Underlying health conditions, you don't have to wear a mask. Underlying health conditions.
I do not have to wear a mask. End of, and you do not have to challenge me either. It's against the law to challenge me.
I'm not going to argue anymore.
Yeah, it's against the law to challenge me as well. I'm not getting on.
So as mentioned before, the argument was about whether or not the Scouse gentleman should wear a mask. He says he has underlying health issues and that therefore he does not need a mask. The officer is not having any of it, to the point he doesn't even want to argue with him anymore. Now, man's quoting law to some extent at the officer, saying he doesn't have the right to challenge him when he gives his explanation. This is correct, and this has been advice given to security and even regular people who happen to work either in the public or private sector. The most you can do is to advise a person to wear a mask if they have no issues, check to see if they have a pass that allows them to go into shops and transport without masks. Yes, we actually have passes, that's how Orwellian the UK is right now, or to just take their word on it. Now, in the police officer's case, they can indeed take his word, but they can also ask for details to get verified, and then I assume if he is indeed guilty of lying and breaking lockdown, punishment would follow accordingly. The police officer does not have the right to do what he is doing now, demanding and trying to force the man to wear a mask that for all he knows he cannot actually wear. Those are beyond his powers, but clearly the officer thinks otherwise. The officer towards the end tells him to get off, which he actually can't do, and then, well...
Come on, Debbie. Yo! Who the fuck do you think you're grabbing? Who the fuck do you think you're grabbing? Hey, who you grabbing? Who the fuck are you grabbing? No, get off me! I've told you, no! Now get off me!
Or I'll get you locked up.
Now get off me! Now you've been told. Get the fuck up! Oi! Who the fuck are you grabbing there?
I'll spray you, mate.
What? You're not spraying me for nothing?
Now the officer just grabs him. He doesn't actually warn the man he will be arrested if he does not comply with his demand to leave. Again, the man does not have to leave. He is well within his rights to stay on the tram, providing he socially distances. Although the man is resisting arrest somewhat, it's not exactly on the level that a hardened criminal would resist. He's not actively trying to harm the officer to keep him at arm's length to stand his ground. It's pretty clear he doesn't want to fight him. This is monumentally stupid from the police officer. He has escalated a situation that did not need to be escalated. He's made the first move by putting hands on the man when all that needed to be done was to de-escalate the situation. That's the first thing you're meant to do. The last thing you should be doing is putting his hands on the man and forcing him out. The fact he can do it in front of people filming him is just crazy as well.
He hasn't done nothing wrong. He hasn't done nothing wrong. He's done nothing wrong.
Get off me!
Medical conditions. Medical conditions. I need to speak to you about you. I'll speak. Get up. Medical conditions. Let go of me. What are you hitting him for?
You're pointing at me.
The officer has also brought out pepper spray with intent to use. Now, the man should really have been more specific when he was saying he had health issues. When it comes to law enforcement, they love grey areas where they can nab you. The vaguer the better. The man, and I think it's 90% likely, is telling the truth. But to the police officer, this is just vague utterances. That doesn't mean he has to believe them. If the man has said, I have asthma or some kind of other respiratory condition, the officer would probably think twice before initiating force. However, that does not excuse the officer in any way. He has taken a huge risk by pulling out the pepper spray so eagerly and so quickly. That could easily harm the man in ways he could not possibly foresee, especially if it comes out in the future that he does have health issues.
I'll spray you, mate.
Lads, you're pointing at me, not even pointing at him.
Yeah. Popping you 119BX. Assistant low level. I've got everything. I've got every bit of this.
Get off me now.
Mate, he's done nothing wrong. He's done nothing wrong. You're on a power trip here.
Yeah.
You're on a power trip.
And I've already spoken to you and told you why I don't have to fucking let go of me on fuck off.
You let go of it.
He threatened the cameraman, and all the cameraman was doing was recording the encounter for evidence. Police in this country hate being filmed by members of the public. One member of the public made me laugh by mocking the officer because, despite his best attempts, he cannot apprehend the man. He's not even fully resisting the officer. He's just standing his ground, not wanting to move, not laying punches or anything like that. To the point, the officer has to get back up. people. The video ends with it getting more and more escalated, with the officer trying to cuff the man and managing to get half of them on his wrist.
Let go of me.
Get off him, man.
You're the one on him.
Let go of me.
You're the one, you're a bully. You're a fucking bully.
I told you I don't have to fucking wear one.
Off the train, mate. By law, he doesn't have to.
Wow, get the
Underlying
fuck off
health
me now.
conditions.
Get the fuck off me.
Not on the train, trying to get the cross in.
Yeah? What the fuck's he doing? Get the mate, fuck off me. No, you have been fucking told. Get the fuck off me. What the fuck you doing?
What's your name and number, bro?
Wow,
Whoa!
Still, the man has done remarkably well to restrain himself despite his temper rising so clearly. If he wanted to harm the cop, he would have done so. But of course, the officer, desperate, pepper sprays him, and then the video ends. But not before some bootlicker demands the man get off the train. Modern Britain, ladies and gentlemen. But the story doesn't end there. After this went viral and people were outraged and criticising this obvious use of excessive force, Transport Police had this to say on the thread. We are aware of this video being shared on social media. Officers were called to reports of a man spitting at 2 passengers. A man has now been charged with a public order offence and assaulting an emergency worker. Now the video is of course only 1 minute and 59 seconds of a longer exchange and out of context, but nowhere does the officer mention that spitting was involved. It was purely about wearing masks. There's also no apparent second party that were complaining about spitting. In fact, no one mentioned spitting in this entire segment. The man has also been charged with a public order offence and assaulting an emergency worker. Emergency worker being the transport officer, yet the video clearly shows that it was the officer who laid hands on him first. Obvious spin by Transport Police, looking to get their employee out of trouble. But there's a twist, guys. 4 hours ago, as of writing the script, one Twitter user who was monitoring the situation pointed out that Transport Police have since changed their tune, saying that it was no longer spitting but coughing at 2 passengers. Again, no one mentioned the man was coughing. Can British Transport Police actually try and stay consistent with their story? They've arrested so many criminals who try to worm their way out of an arrest or conviction that you'd think they'd learn how to lie, right? Pick up a few tricks. Apparently not. Outrageous spin from the people meant to be protecting the roads and public transport. Did the man and his mates cough or spit at people? Who can say? We have no idea, but considering the police's narrative changed from spitting to coughing, I have to question if this actually happened. There are 2 scenarios that could have happened. Either the man got into a confrontation with 2 passengers for any reason, either not wearing a mask in the case of Karens or just arguing. He then coughs or spits at some people who have been filmed doing when they get confrontational during the pandemic, or he just so happened to cough at the wrong place at the wrong time, and then may have got into an argument with some Karens or was reported by bootlickers looking to do some social policing. I can't say, there's not been any further context for hours now, but either way, it does not excuse the officer's actions, nor does the video evidence prove any of the charges levelled at the man. I hope the charges are dropped when it's apparent who laid the first finger, but I wouldn't hold my breath. I would not expect mainstream media to be picking up this story anytime soon. Not only is it to do with the coof, but it's also a white man being assaulted by the police. Don't expect BLM UK to start covering this. In the thread you actually see people praise the officer for being oppressive because the man didn't wear his mask. There's something deeply wrong with British society that people like that exist in such numbers. However, the majority of people were condemnatory of the officer and the British Transport Police. I think this is the nadir of British lockdown policing. I don't expect this to cause a large backlash from the public, but it has to be one of many incidents that will lead us down that road. The police are going to have a problem on their hands when they abuse their authority one too many times, and also police the lockdown unfairly. It seems that some people can get away with things, other people cannot. This will only create more resentment because people will figure out that the police only enforce the law properly on certain individuals. Then they will lose all legitimacy across every section of society, and then, well, they will have a problem. And we told them so, didn't we?